Just helps me sync up the audio later. Yeah. Shanan Stewart, how's it going?
Good, mate.
Good.
Pretty happy to be here.
Yeah. As I just sort of said, spoke to a couple of the boys and they said, get you on, you'd have a few good stories to tell.
I don't know, they'll be old stories anyway, not that much.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously the cricket today, no good, but...
Pretty disappointing, and it was a interesting day where I think a lot of people were expecting or were hoping for a win, and it just didn't quite fall our way, but can only hope next time.
Yeah. I mean, did you see when BNC's got 2 and 2?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I was at work and had the phone on and got a bit excited for that point and thought maybe, but it just looked like that wicket just with that, once the ball got a wee bit older, it looked a bit easier to bat. And to be fair, I think maybe Henners had bowled so many overs that he'd maybe run out a wee bit of petrol, and obviously just Kugelai not bowling too many overs, and they were just a bit short, weren't they?
Yeah. A bit weird picking Kugelai, and I don't know how many he bowled in the first innings, but he only bowled 3 in the second.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't really follow that much domestic cricket, but I've always found him that I always thought he was a pretty good bowler. I was actually talking to Peter Fulton the other day. He said he's probably one of the quickest guys going around. I suppose when you play Australia, you need a bit of pace. But yeah, I think, and to be fair, I thought he batted quite well last night.
Yeah, he did.
Got us up to a total. So yeah, it just didn't quite fall his way in the 2 games. But I think that we're pretty harsh to judge him on 2 games. So I don't know, who else would you pick? I don't really know enough, but I know he's a good handy, he's a tidy fielder, pretty good bowler, but I don't know if he was carrying an injury too, so it seemed a bit strange that he didn't bowl too many overs today.
Yeah.
So I did hear something about a foot injury, which obviously if you're injured doesn't help, but
that makes a bit more sense then.
Yeah, but again, I don't know.
Yeah. What'd you make of Wagner not getting a final run?
Well, I think maybe that he, just by not playing so many games of late, they travelled the subcontinent, didn't really play, and, I suppose he's getting on 37, and in hindsight, he probably could have played, and he probably would have done all right on that base and reserve wicket, because maybe his pace isn't quite up there, which it was. But in saying that, to be fair, if any bowler had hit the right areas, they looked like he got some pretty good return. So maybe, possibly. But again, I thought Will O'Rourke was pretty impressive, so he wasn't going to get left out. And then obviously they did choose Kugelai, but he must have done, over time, again, he must have gone well. So the selectors sort of have an idea, don't they? So maybe I'd say that Wagner's pace maybe wasn't quite up there, but again, he's been a pretty loyal servant, and he's done extremely well.
Yeah, incredible career. Yeah, I think I was just a bit upset that he didn't get that send off. I feel like when you've played that many games, it'd be nice to know you going out to play your last game, and
I suppose. But he must have maybe been told that he wasn't going to play. I'm not sure, but he's had a great career, and I think it'd have been great for one more go and maybe get Steve Smith again. But at the end of the day, he's going to be pretty proud of his career.
Yeah. How did you know as a player when it was time to call?
Well, I finished cricket for Canterbury at age 31, which was relatively young. I sort of stagnated a bit for my last 2 years of my career, and I just kept getting injured every second game, which was disappointing. Probably wasn't going as well as I should have. You sort of get in your prime there, but when I, between 28 to 31, 32, but I'd done it since I was 19 years old. And you start looking for, unless you're playing for New Zealand and doing that all the time, you've definitely got to start looking outside what you're doing. I didn't want to be a washed up cricketer at 38, 39 and then go and have to find a job, or I never went to uni because I went straight to the cricket academy when I was 19 or 18, whatever it was, and studying then, it was the last thing I wanted to do. We're generally at most bars at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're having a couple. So, it was no real time for studying at that age. And looking back, is obviously I probably, which you don't think at 19, 20, do you? But it would have been good to study. So for me, when I finished cricket, I ended up, I got into a wee bit of coaching, and then I did a bit of labouring, and then I decided that I'd get to my building apprenticeship, and so I stuck that out, and then I was running my own company, which was good, to the point now where I work for a development company doing units, develop from 20 units down to 10, which has been really good fun, and you learn heaps with it.
When you say units, what type of?
Like 90 square townhouses.
Oh, yeah.
Just development blocks, which is obviously seems to be the big craze, going around with obviously smaller properties, and I think that ideal for a first home buyer, which I'd be pretty rapt if I was 23 or taking your KiwiSaver going into these units. Obviously, you don't have the big land out the back, but I think people don't have really time to keep that stuff up anyway.
No. What does a small unit run you?
Well, I think you'd probably be able, like, one bedrooms, over 400 or something, ranging from a, 3 bedroom up to say 650, 700, 750. So, yeah, you still need a wee bit of your KiwiSaver up there, but, they're pretty nice, and they're well spec'd. I think that's been the big thing. Working for Andrew has been their spec and their finish, which is good.
Oh, nice. And so coming into your last couple of seasons of cricket, you said you were injured.
Yeah.
Quite regular. What sort of injuries were you?
Well, I started at about 28. I went to England, and we just actually won the 4-day championship, and I had a slight groin. I thought, and I just feel, sweet, I'll get over there, and like they like to do is they run the shit out of you and make you bowl too many overs, and then you've got a bat all day, and so I started getting sore and sore and sore. So I ended up getting a labral tear, which was from it was actually from a diving catch, and so that got worse and worse and worse, and then I come home from England, and I was either going to have surgery, which was going to be 18 months to 2 years out of playing cricket. And I was just starting to go quite well, like making some, so I was going up the chain, and so the coaches sort of said, don't do it, and which probably, if I'd done 2 years out, I probably would have struggled. So I had that, so my fielding was always after that. I was just like an old,
no mobility.
Nah, it was horrible. And it actually affected my confidence with my fielding a lot, which was, I struggled to move. So then I'd sort of, my batting obviously was going really good. We had a change of coach, Bobby Carter, and so my batting obviously, like I said, continued to improve, and then so once he moved on, and after that I Steady took over, and it just every second game I'd like get a hit on the fingers or something and break one, or a broken hand, so yeah, it was a bit unlucky, but I don't know, it was just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
18 to 20 months recoveries.
Yeah, so I never got that. Yeah, so I'd had a bone. Most people's head of their bone is circular, so mine's not. And if you knock it, it's boom like that, and so that was hard. It was hard, and even squatting. And folks used to give me shit because I didn't used to like going under the lid. But squatting down off was horrible, continuously all the time.
Yeah.
Which you don't really pick up on these deformities until it's even like sitting on the school mat at school. I struggled to do that.
Like cross-legged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't actually pick up that stuff till you're older.
No. Yeah, I feel like I've got some problems with my left. What does a labral tear feel like?
So a labral tear's in there. It's just, I don't know, sometimes it was quite sickening. It was like, I don't know if I've got one on my shoulder too, but, I don't know if when you throw a ball and it just you feel instantly just feel sick.
Yeah.
So that was another injury as well. Yeah, it was just about that same time Corey Anderson got his operated on. So I watched his, and he took about a year, but again, he was only about 15 years old, so he had plenty of years left in him. But
yeah, that's tough when you pick up an injury like that, and it's a bit like, particularly as like a batsman. Like batsmen typically don't have the injury problems that fast bowlers, and I mean it must suck being like a guy like Kyle Jamieson and in and out, up and down, and just
it's I think for him, because I know how hard he works and then he'd get back and he's obviously class, so when he plays he does extremely well. But then he just unfortunately gets injured. But I think sometimes with the fast bowling it's just part and parcel until you can get enough overs under your belt and just sort of push through it. But like he's got stress fractures in your back, so it's not just about pushing through that either, is it?
No,
because you can't.
No, well that must be the hardest thing, because it's pretty much just rest, right, or rest or surgery or.
Yeah, so I think he may have had that back fusion, what a few guys have had, and they always seem to bounce back later on in their careers with it. So hopefully, in the next wee while, he gets that sorted, because I think New Zealand need him, and he's pretty prolific when he plays.
Yeah, the fusion is that one of the new ones? Because
yeah, so Andrew Ellis originally, I think, got it. Oh, geez, it'd be 15 years ago. He got it. He was having huge issues with his back, and then I think Bondi got it, and like Andy come back pretty well after that, and I think Shane Bond did as well. So I think that's sort of been after where people sort of followed that lead after with stress fractures. But I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure Jofra Archer got his over here too.
Right.
A fusion in his back. So so you can only hope that if he is getting another one, that he's back soon. But don't quote me on that. But he has had a fusion. I know that.
Yeah, because I was talking to Kenny McClure, because he's had, I think, something done to his back, but he said that the fusion is different to the old one. As in, like, I think there's a bit more mobility with the spine after it. I don't know what they do differently, but
no, like I said, I'm no surgeon, definitely. No. So, but yeah, I do know with Andrew Ellis and Bond, they come back with after that, pretty well.
Yeah, and obviously after you finished playing first class, you carried on with country. Yeah,
so I originally started at Riccarton when I was about 16 years old, and played there till I was 28, 29 or something. And then my last couple of years before, when I was playing for Canterbury, I went out to the country. I grew up out at Kaipoi and lived at Woody End and played all my junior cricket out there till I went to St. Bede's. So I decided that I wanted to go out there. They played on, the best wicket in Canterbury, but whatever, I don't even know. There wasn't actually really even a first class ground going at that time, so it was just logical. To be fair, I probably should have done it earlier. We played at Hagley 3, which you're there the odd time you get a decent wicket, but it was generally pretty average. But I enjoyed going out to main power and then playing after cricket and playing for country, which was actually enough for me to keep stimulated in cricket, because you played, Marlborough, Nelson, I don't know, and then if you'd win, you get up to, and play some other first class teams not first class teams, other provincial teams that are actually on really good wickets and good grounds. So you sort of got your cricket fix with that. And the country team, when I actually took on a player coach role there. So, at the time when I had, when I first retired from Canterbury, I had, young kids like Jack Boyle, Harry Chamberlain, Henry Shipley, Kyle Jamieson come back out. So it was quite cool to see their development as well. So, and they all worked pretty hard. And I think, a few of them obviously have gone on to good things, but we just played good hard cricket, and And I think that's the positive, with you playing those 3-day games. Once you get past so you ended up having to bowl, ridiculous amount of overs. One time we played up in Palmy North, and Mike Mason, because he just, he could and would and wanted to do it so we were winning it for the challenge, but he just kept bowling. We're like, I was batting, just get, it's all right. He was up to about 45 overs.
Jesus.
It was ridiculous. And he just kept running in. So we ended up winning that. But yeah, like I said, it was I think that just kept me interested in cricket once I'd finished. And I went and played out there probably about 4 years ago for country. Managed to win the Hawke Cup a couple of times, which I've found, it's interesting cricket. I think just being a one innings game, the pressure of one innings game is a lot different. We played a game against Nelson and we had pretty, Fulton played, myself played, Henry Nichols, Jack Boyle, our top 5 or 6 was pretty handy, and Nelson, we were chasing say 280 or something, and Nelson had us 3 or 4 down for bugger all for 30, and Henry Nichols nicked one behind and the keeper dropped it, and he went on to get 140. So that was pretty cool, and it showed, and then we ended up winning outright. They just fell apart once we'd done that, but I really respect that cricket, and I hope that it can carry on in the near future, as much as New Zealand cricket probably want to change the format, but like I said, is for people that aren't playing first class cricket. I know people play club cricket in town here, which probably don't understand it, and I understand because I've played both, and they've all got their own right, and and I think club cricket for me, probably against a lot of opinion, if I was in town, I think they should shrink teams, and I would base myself at a couple of venues and have the best wickets, basically the best 2 or 3 wickets or 3 wickets going round, and I think that would be an investment of Canterbury cricket. And then, but again, it wouldn't be looked at fondly on by clubs, but if you've got 6 teams playing, you're playing on some great wickets, and a bowler can bowl a team out or something, he's definitely going to get looked at, and a batter, if he gets runs, he's going to be looked at. So that's probably what I do, which not many people would agree with, but that's what I've looked at for years.
Yeah, well, I don't think they take club cricket into consideration when it comes to the Canterbury selection, really, do they?
Probably not. But in saying that, I think people that probably there's enough A cricket, I think. But yeah, they probably should. Like if a guy's tuning out 400s, he can obviously bat. But I think wickets, the wickets have been average for, I've been in cricket for 25 years, and they've always been pretty average. So a bowler doesn't need to be necessarily that great. Like if you can bowl dribble like myself, you can probably snare a couple. But in saying that, I think, like as you said, as we see, the higher that you go up in the levels, the quicker everything gets. But if a guy can get so many wickets, so that's not saying that a guy who can bowl 120k can't play first class cricket, but if he was playing on better wickets and he got 30 or 40 wickets for a season, then surely people would have to have a look at it.
Yeah, you'd think so.
So that's no one's necessarily fault. I just think, I wouldn't blame, like as a Canterbury selector or as a coach or anything. I think they can only really deal. Let's be honest, they've got their job is about the top team winning, and they just wouldn't have the time to now that they play. They're away from their families and all that stuff. They just wouldn't be able to get down to club cricket all the time.
Yeah, no, it would be a tough ask, wouldn't it, to monitor club cricket?
Yeah, well, it's about, you play 8 first class games, and then you play 10 or whatever one days plus T20. There's a lot of time. They practice a lot. But in saying that, there's what I think. If runs and wickets are people's currencies, aren't they? So if someone's doing that, then they surely can go up the food chain.
Yeah, well, that's why a lot of boys go out to country, right? To have more of a chance to play longer form cricket, to maybe look at getting selected for those 4-day teams.
Maybe, and you know, I if I was in here again and I played 2-day cricket, I think it's the biggest waste of time. And I just think it's a complete joke. It's just a waste of time. I don't see what the benefit is in it. It's if a team dominates, they basically bat a lot less than the other team. And for Riccarton, when we won it once or twice, you know, you'd end up, if you batted in the first innings, you were always trying to get on with it. And so you never really got a really long bat, and then you'd be declaring quite early. So I would maybe hint at just playing 50. If you know you're going to have a bat and a bowl every weekend, people were happy, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's a 2-day cricket, like a couple of games, you know, people would go on for 80 overs and you're just thinking, mate, I'm here for a bat. So
yeah, exactly. And like in the first innings, having to declare it 60 overs, like as a batsman, you're not getting that chance to bat huge amounts of time, are you? But
there's probably not too many on the wickets and all that. There's probably not too many people that can bat too much longer than that. But I don't know. These are just in the pie in the sky things. But I think that if you're really keen to get into that stuff and get better, you know, quality, and that's when I finished playing for Canterbury, country was still on the 1-day comp, so we played all their teams, and like compared to when I first started, I couldn't believe, like just even 4 or 5 years, I thought the standard had gone down hugely. It wasn't that the players, you know, there wasn't good enough, still good players, but there just wasn't. It's the good players that were never going to play for Canterbury that you want to keep playing. It's actually not the guys that are good enough that are playing for Canterbury or fringe players, because they're always going to be handy. But it's the lesser guys that stick around and do a journey for 12 years at club cricket and actually hold your club together. There's just not too many of them. So that was probably the biggest thing that I've seen. And also with, you know, like probably these days, if you're like, it's very young, so you just don't keep the older guys playing, giving back.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, with like 2-day cricket, like there's a chance you only bat one weekend every 2 weeks. Like that happened to me for the first time ever. Like got out twice last weekend. It's like fuck. Showed up to Saturday like not batting here today. Like I play cricket to bat, and it's just not happening.
No, and that goes back to either you want to do a 50 over comp or whatever it is. So many games a year, and everyone gets a bat and a bowl. So that's a start that you keep people interested in cricket. But again, I'm sure have they ever done a poll to see what people actually want to play. So for me personally, I've been asked to come to a guy from Heathcote probably about 3 years ago and said, "Do you want to come play?" I said, "Do you play 2-day cricket?" I said, "No." So he said, "Yes, we do." I said, "No chance." But I just, you know, for me that was. I just wasn't interested. I'm actually I play in a T20 league, and now, you know, a team called the Fozzie Bears, and we play at 2 p.m. on a Saturday, and we're at the pub by 4:45. So what more do you want? As old guys playing with mates, I said I'd never do that, but you know, I enjoy it. You know, like you retire at 40, so you can't clean up and dominate the game. So if you get to 40, and then you but you're just having fun, and you actually see the enjoyment with people actually just turning up and just wanting to play, and that's been cool. And you're playing with mates. Yeah,
that sounds like a great format, eh? But yeah, I think, like, I don't know, like, as a player, I've never heard from Canterbury Cricket being like, what formats do you guys like to play? Because you always hear, like, oh, everyone loves 2-day cricket, but I don't know what they're basing that on if, you know, the guys playing it haven't actually been asked. And same with like T20. Like we played 3 2020s this year, which I thought was fucking ridiculous. Like T20 is great, especially if you're getting 2 on a Saturday. I get 2 bats, 2 chances. Yeah. And then just, I don't know what happened with that this year. But
so they just binned it off?
Yeah. Well, we played 3 games. We lost one on the last ball. We tied one. and we're out, even though we hadn't played bad cricket. It's just like, fuck, what do you...
But I don't know, like people, like there's either a couple of ways. Again, if you wanted to keep for a club, there's a few clubs that are definitely struggling. So if they played a T20 league, and again, people probably wouldn't do it, but if you had a Thursday night and you played 6 games or 8 games, or 6 games, let's say 6, because you don't want to, it's over the season 6. And you put it out to the players, so they keep, like, you might be able to get a few players to play. I know that I'd sooner play that than train. So
exactly, yeah.
So what's the real difference? And yes, again, because most people, like kids, are young, they could do that on a Thursday night. How accessible is it for wickets and all that? Again, I don't know. But like, again, more cricket that kids can and players can play, the better they'll get. And T20 seems to be the way of the future, doesn't it? So, that could be substituting. And then we're talking about 2-day cricket. Well, okay, why don't we have 2 rounds of 2-day cricket and 2 rounds of 1-day cricket? I don't know, what the numbers would be with that, but you're still getting plenty of cricket in there. And you're talking about 2 bats on a Saturday. Well, yeah, double header, whatever you want to do. But I don't see a future for 2-day cricket unless you went and had an organisation like we've all been to Aussie, and I've done a few trips and their wickets are pretty impressive. Like you probably can bat 90 overs and then you get 300 and 350 or whatever it is, and then you know that you're in for one next week, and you hope that it doesn't rain during the week and it seems out the following week. But I don't think we're going to have the weather conditions continually to have those wickets, and probably the people investing enough in the wickets.
I guess that's the thing. But yeah, on T20, like I'm sure every club team trains Tuesday, Thursdays, and I know as a player, I'd rather play a T20 on a Thursday than go to training.
Yeah,
and probably get more value from playing T20 than the training itself anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
So they can carry through to a Saturday anyway. So.
Well, I played quite a lot of league cricket in England, and even in Holland and stuff, and that's all they did. When the season got started, and you did still train on the Tuesday night and stuff like that, but you knew Thursday, or you wouldn't train Thursday, and you'd play Friday, Saturday. But you got to keep kids interested in playing these days. There's just so many other things to do. And again, I just, I don't know if there's enough teams. I see teams get promoted, relegated. I don't know what those lesser sides are like these days. But for me, it's disappointing from a Riccarton side that they're not in the top, because, they were a very strong club for a number of years, and they had some extremely good players. And unfortunately, with the new ground, and it's probably been for St Albans too, that it's just maybe not as many players are going there, and kids, there's probably just not enough kids going around the leaving school going to these places, but which is disappointing.
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword as well, right? Like they get relegated last year, and then you've got guys who have been playing Prems and they're like, fuck, I want to keep playing Prems, I'm going to have to move club, which reduces the strength of Riccarton again, you know, and it's kind of like a spiral situation there. And then Maryvale have come up and struggled, but they've probably picked up players. And I know for us as well, we've got a Prems team, but then we've got nothing in Championship. So when guys do need to come up to Prems, it's quite a jump.
Yeah. So
I don't know what they're going to do there next year, but
Yeah, the same thing happened to Marist, and I think, they've been a strong cricket club for a number of years. Obviously not in the past 5-7, but they were a good club, and it's just a bit of a shame. And I don't know how easy it is for these clubs now to get up to the Premiership and carry on playing, because at the end of the day, I've said, there's only so many players that are going to available to play in the clubs, and at the end of the day, you've probably got 16 contracts for Canterbury now. 11 of them are always playing, or 12, whatever, and then you've got 4 fit. There's not a huge amount filtering down, so is sort of a area where those bottom two teams are probably always going to struggle.
Oh, yeah. So when did you start playing cricket?
I started when I was about 9 years old. I played for Kaipoi, of all places, and me and my brother were always into it. So we, after a season or two, I think I knew I loved it, and the more it was just one of those things where when you're young, you just either there cricket in the summer and rugby in the winter.
Yeah. What age did you start getting selected for higher teams?
They used to have the South Island Primary School tournament. I don't know if you...
I did play in that, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I went to 3 or 4 of them. 3 of them. Went to Nelson, Oamaru and Westport. So that was sort of when it started happening, and in my final year we won it. We had a pretty famous guy in the team called Daniel Carter. He was a bowler and could hit a bit, so he was quite handy.
What did he bowl?
Sort of just medium outswing, but he was quite short in those days, but he was quite skitty, but he could give it a lick, and so he was pretty handy. So we managed to win it. We got second in the previous year in Oamaru. So that was sort of, and then I went to St. Bede's, and I managed to, my first 3 games for St. Bede's, I managed to score 300. So that sort of helped a lot, because the priest came up to me and he said, Shanan, where do you want to bat? And I said, no, he didn't tell me. He said, you're going to have to bat 4, 5 or 6, because these town players had played for town. I said, okay, I'll open. So after that day, after those 3 weeks, I was decided where I was going to bat, which was good. But those guys in my team then ended up being my best mates. A guy Ian Robinson, who played a lot for Canterbury, he was a handy cricketer at school. He could smack it still, so he played in my team. I think that Brandon Heaney, who ended up was a year older than me, so eventually we moved into the first 11. I think I was probably about end of 4th form. I didn't actually do as well as my first year was quite well at St. Bede's with the cricket, but I ended up I maybe played one more season, then I went to Riccarton. Gary said, I had a meeting with him and he said, come to Riccarton. So I went to Riccarton when I was 16. Just got sledged the shit out of. Far out. I copped some abuse, far out. Because Riccarton had their previous couple of years with Aftab Habib and a guy, Neil Maxwell. And I think Neil played for Australia and Aftab played for England. So they were just abusing the shit out of everyone. So Riccarton and they had Wayne Stead, who was Gary's brother. They didn't mind, a bit of chat. So he would abuse the shit out of. So this young 16-year-old coming in, far out, I copped so much abuse. I never, in all my cricket actually, never copped so much. So, I sometimes laugh, when people used to, even when the kids would get a bit older, and I was still playing, and he said something to me, I'm like, far out, mate, you basically used to abuse the shit out of. So, yeah, so times have changed a bit in that way. Did it? Well, I don't know. I think it was actually good for me in the end, because I think it toughened you up pretty quickly. In the end, so I think I made New Zealand under-19s that year and went to Sri Lanka. That gave me a bit of a taste. I was 16 years old then, so that was sort of where things started happening.
And then obviously got picked for Canterbury.
Yeah, so I went actually the following year, so Canterbury under-19s again, and we managed to win it. I had a good season there. I had a really good season in that Canterbury under-19s, and Canterbury sort of going through a bit of a regroup phase. Gary McDonald had just left coaching and Michael Sharp took over. So they had the pre-season stuff, and they invited me, and that's when I was at the New Zealand Cricket Academy. In those days, you lived out there, so
Was that out in Lincoln?
yeah. So mate, it was the time of your life, like we had good set of lads. We had both the McCullums, Jamie Howe, Reece Young, from Canterbury, Wade Cornelius, he was funny as. He was just who else was really? Who was our Nick Horsley, who was a good cricketer. But yeah, everyone ended up doing pretty well and going there. So that's when I about 201 managed to play for Canterbury. I just sit and wait for a couple of games, just as 12th or 13th man, and then managed to get a debut as an opener up in Gisborne of all places. So yeah, that's when my career sort of started from there.
That's pretty awesome. I played a bit against Wade Cornelius back in Blenheim. I remember my first senior game, he was standing there and I was just terrified, left one on middle. Thanks for coming.
Wade, he is one guy that I would say that should have and could have and played for New Zealand very easy. I think around that age, about 27 he would have been. He was extremely fit. He loved a pie, old Wado, so pie and a pie. So his weight used to fluctuate a touch, but shit, when he got it right, he bowled some serious, close to 140 and could swing it away. So he was a great cricketer, and he's one guy that, I think probably should have played a couple of tests or something for New Zealand.
Did he retire quite young as well?
Yeah, he did. He sort of he had back injuries a wee bit. Probably put on a wee bit of weight just by not bowling, and that was a great thing when he went to the academy. He had to bowl every day, so Wade was lean as. He got 7 for against Australian Academy, just bouncing the shit out of him. Like he hated pitching it up later, so he bounced the shit out of them, and they didn't like it. And Dale Headley was a big fan of this, because Wade could always. He literally could sell ice to Eskimo, he's definitely got the gift of the gab.
Yeah. His brother Clayton was pretty handy too.
Yeah,
they both were living in Blenheim, and
yeah. So Clayton, he played my first year quite a bit, and he was he could hit smack it and just bowled nice, medium pace, but was handy enough that had enough skill to go both ways. But he was a good cricketer and he was a good fielder. He sort of, in our one-day team that year, which we managed to get to the final, that was sort of where it all, my first sort of season for Canterbury.
Mm. Yeah, and you said Wade, you thought could have played a couple of tests. Who are some other cricketers that you thought, some of the better cricketers that didn't play international cricket?
Not necessarily international. I think most guys, if you're half decent in New Zealand, will get an opportunity because it's just the law of averages, and with players, there's not enough. So most people, if you stick around long enough, you'll get a shot. I think someone like Michael Papp should have played a lot, a lot of Test cricket for New Zealand, a lot more. And I think in today's environment, he would have played a lot more. I think he would have probably stayed in the team a lot more. He was a really good batter. I think Matthew Sinclair, my time, he could bat. I think, again, I go back to today, he probably wouldn't have been played 5 tests or 10 tests or whatever it is and being dropped. He was seriously good. And I think he was looked after. I think most of the bowlers end up playing for New Zealand because, most people get injured or something like that. So most bowlers that have played for New Zealand eventually get in. But yeah, he's sort of those two guys.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to get an extended run, right? To give yourself a chance to settle and find your feet. It'd be interesting with Matthew Sinclair if he'd played 30 tests on the trot since his debut. Yeah. How much different his career would have been.
Well, I think he probably just would have got looked after slightly better. To be fair, he probably played a lot of continuous at tests, but I think, just by watching him play, watched him at the back end of his career, he was a gun. but he did have a few technical issues. But again, I just think that probably in today's game, you just maybe looked after a touch better, and that's why New Zealand's had so much success in the past 10 years, I think, because for a start, looking around your shoulder, because you've probably been told by the coach and captain, and McCullum started that, you can tell that by the England setup that he's got at the moment. Like he keeps players in their team in there, they're calling for their heads, and but at the end of the day is if people are secure in their position, and let's be honest, everyone knows when you're going to be dropped or should be dropped. It's, I've been dropped numerous times, and if you don't know it's coming, then seriously, you haven't played enough cricket, because you go back to your position, your side is runs. For me, it was currency to runs. So if I'm scoring shitloads of runs, then I can't be dropped. So the times I did get dropped, yeah, there was probably a couple of times I was filthy, but I don't know. You just sort of know.
Yeah. Well, you have to have that self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Of I'm not playing the best cricket.
I
could be on the way out.
And look, there's many a time, because, I think I was a team player that probably I should have been dropped now and again. But if you play a certain way, then I think you'll maybe, and you're looking after the team, you'll probably get a few more opportunities. But yeah, that's. But you learn that as, I think cricket is a selfish game. Let's not beat past that. And I've met numerous selfish cricketers, and to be fair, if I look back, sometimes I wish I was a touch more selfish in some ways. And I think that again, I go back to the end of my career, I think I was heading in that way. And that's, you just don't enjoy it as much, I think cricket, well, for me growing up over the years, was all about mates. I played with numerous mates round probably from about 205 to about 209. Like I said, I went to school with Brandon Heaney, Leighton Burt, Peter Fulton, Michael Peps. They were all my best mates. So we were sort of, we all hung together, we drank together, we did everything together. So it was a fun time, we'd go on a run, and if you were on a run, so we in those days you'd play Wednesday, Sunday. So if you're having a bit of a lean trot, and one time we decided that we'd go and have a few because we couldn't play any worse, so we had a few and we won. So then the following Sunday we carried on so it became a bit of a well, by the end it was a bit of a chore, but it was we were doing Wednesday, Sunday nights after every game because to keep it going. So we were pretty much playing for free in the end. But that was sort of the things you remember. I can't really tell you what the games happened, but I can tell you about the nights that we had out. But yeah, so that was good fun. But then in the end, like I said, if you stop having fun and with it, then it's probably time to do something else.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's such a long game, right? To show up on a Saturday for 8 hours or 4 days if you're playing first class cricket and you're not enjoying it, it's a fucking tough gig. And
you see those guys, you see those cricketers like Marnus and Steve Smith, you can just see that they absolutely love it, like Kane Valencia, you can just see that he absolutely loves batting, and hence why he's so good. And that's not saying I didn't love it, but it's just different times in life, and you get to a stage where you're not quite enjoying it as much.
Yeah. When do you remember your first call up to the Blackcaps? Do you remember how that went down?
Yeah, so I just managed to get a double hundred for Canterbury, and then I had to drive from New Plymouth to Hamilton. So I drove there. It was Ross Taylor was injured, so he ended up playing, so I was 12th man, and then I didn't expect to play, so I literally found out about an hour and a half before I was going to play in Auckland, and didn't have a helmet that fit me, and it was a bit of a shambles really, and then I played and got caught on the long on boundary off Nathan Horrocks for bugger all, and that was sort of. Then I managed to get the next one day against at Wellington where we won on a pretty average wicket. I remember being down at the other end and Doug Bollinger was flying off a length and the keeper was catching up here and I was like, oh, this wicket's not very nice. So I nicked off to Mitchell Johnson and then that was my first two games. So it was sort of thrown to the Lions a wee bit. But in saying that, you know, you could have taken the opportunity. And then I went to Bangladesh, and far out, that was... so we meant to play 2 warm-up games, and all of a sudden they'd been washed out. So, you know, it was beautiful sunshine, but 2 hours away, the games meant to be, and they got washed out. We hadn't had a net, we hadn't had anything. So we go into the first game, and I think I was batting 7. You don't want to be batting down the order over there because the ball literally does not want to bounce. And I get out to there, and the ball's bouncing about this high, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm in shit here. So yeah, my 2 games were pretty average there. I just started to feel, I got in relatively early. I got about 16, which obviously stuff all, and I just started to feel a bit comfortable and got out with the ball skidded through. So that was disappointing. They were my 4 games, but I would have liked a few more. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm happy that I got there, but I wish I'd maybe got a few more. And I think, you know, if I'd had a few more, who knows what would have happened. But it wasn't meant to be, and you just move on to the next thing.
So do you feel pretty comfortable at international level?
I wouldn't say comfortable, because I think you're going into a new environment. You know, again, I played a lot of cricket with quite a few other guys. So I wouldn't say comfortable, but I think more games that you sort of you play, the more you're going to be able to get used to it. You know, like, so that they were sort of, like I said, as Bangladesh as it was and is a hard place to travel. You know, for a start, it's just foreign. I'd never been bar to Sri Lanka. You know, played on a subcontinent wicket that literally does not bounce. So, you know, things like that you learn. But in saying that, if I'd managed to scrape a score together, you get a few more games. It just wasn't meant to be. But yeah.
How did you find facing Mitchell Johnson?
I'd actually faced him when I was younger, so he was slinging and fast. So yeah. So, but you know, like I wasn't out there long enough to judge it. But yeah, like I've faced some good bowlers. I faced for Canterbury. We played against England about 201. And I nicked out actually in I think I got a duck in the first innings, and then I nicked one, and I think Ashley Giles dropped it on it, and Caddick just kept flying off a length, it was like you just got nothing to drive, nothing. So I was just like, so as soon as Giles come on, I thought, fuck this, I'm teeing you out because I'm not going to get. So I managed to get a couple of sixes and batted for about 2 or 3 hours and got 60 odd. So that was pretty cool, and that was like, I think they had Flintoff, Craig White, Hoggard.
Yeah.
So that was cool to do that. So that was good fun. So you do like, and then I remember for Canterbury, Stephen Finn come over. He was pretty quick. So he was a good bowler. So you managed to get, face quite a few guys, just for playing that you thought were good bowlers.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome. The guys you get to play against at that level,
Yeah, but I think like you said, the more that you can, especially like international cricket, you get pretty good facilities and all that stuff. So you're definitely going to get better. I think even watching for guys that would go up and like I remember when Tom Latham first went up to New Zealand, and he come back and that front foot defence that he had was just like a rock wall, and you're like, far out, how are you getting you out now? So I just think in an environment like that where you're going to learn, you stick around long enough, and for like Tom, he's obviously a very good player, but his D tightened up a huge amount, and eventually if you can stick around long enough, you're going to get some runs.
Yeah. Do you think the first class scene's changed much since you retired?
I don't really know much about it in the last, I've been retired now 10 years, but probably not really. I would say Canterbury, I look at it as a point of view from me that Canterbury are pretty lucky that they have a ground like Higley for us for numerous years. We were in Portaloos and we were just, like average facilities. So I think players in that sense are lucky these days. but again, I think around early 2007, 8, 9, when we were getting some pros from overseas, there were good cricketers, international cricketers. I think that was good on the 2020 front. So you get exposure to a few international players. I remember when Rahul Dravid played for Canterbury. So, you sort of miss a bit of that. I'm picking that the bowlers seem to be, Canterbury have always seem to be getting bowlers coming through at the moment. So they're obviously, they've recruited well, guys like Willow Rourke and stuff like that. So, they've obviously got a good eye for good cricketers. And obviously they can produce their own. So I think in the sense of Canterbury doing quite well, I couldn't really judge other provinces because I just I don't see them. But from a point of view of Canterbury, like I've said, I was involved with country and they had quite a few cricketers. And what I do think with cricketers, I think that they are well managed these days, meaning they have a good people under the head coach. So you've got people that you can lean on for throws or trainings. Where when I first started, unfortunately, the coach, which was Michael Sharp, he just had to do everything. So it would get like fitness training was shocking. It was you had a gym membership, but you had no real guidance. So as a cricketer, you I don't say you drift. You just do what you're sort of the other players have been doing. I look when Canterbury took on, say, like a guy like Paul Wiseman come in about 2007, 2008, and he had a few guys under his arm, which was his role as a high performance coach. And those, probably 50% of them have gone on to play for Canterbury. 5 out of 10. And New Zealand, the Latham, Henry Nichols, they're all guided pretty well from an early age, and you knew they were going to be really good cricketers because they were obviously talented for a start, but they got shown the way and helped. And I think that's where Paul was brilliant with them. So I think that's where it's probably different. That you've actually got it. You're looked after a wee bit better from a younger point.
Yeah, I mean, that must be so much nicer as a player. Obviously, if you've come from just having like a coach trying to run everything to now, if they've got gym programs designed, gym sessions set up, and you just...
Yeah.
You don't need to think too much outside of just showing up and performing. That must be huge difference.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because you remember when I first started, you guys that they were being playing for years and years and years. So we had an extremely strong side. Keynes, McMillan, Harris, Bond, McCullum come in. But most of those guys were always away on, and they'd come back and play now and again, but then they'd be away. So then you had another set of guys that were like Fulton, Peps, Stephen Kunis, Warren Wisniewski, that would sort of... So there was sort of two teams there, and you basically just did what everyone else did. So you never really... you just didn't really have the pathways as such until a few years later. And I think, Canterbury had a bit of a change where, they brought in a South African coach, Dave Nosworthy, and then they had Bob Carter, where I think from a batting side, like Bob sort of took my game to a new level because I'd never ever been coached and had a bat. So he's telling, doing, which you see in these today, you do your one-handed and two-handed drills, which, like your top hand and then your bottom hand. And it was amazing where you could become a 360 player by hitting around the ground just by, learning different access points, how to hit the ball. So for me as a batter, my game, I always had a relatively good technique, but my hitting power went from to a pretty good level, mainly just because I was coached. Where you watch these days and guys, the hitting power and all that, and you take guys like Daryl Mitchell, and it just it's actually kids should watch how to hit like that because he's doing it all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you go back and so we did have some amazing hitters like Keynes and McMillan and Harris, but they just batted, they batted rather than a technique. So as the game has evolved, and definitely hitting techniques have evolved, and hitting techniques have definitely developed as well. So again, back to your earlier question, cricket is developing because I think people are acknowledging different techniques.
Yeah, it's amazing how much like technique can have an effect on like your power game. Like Leo Carter plays for our club team, and like he's not a big guy at all, but fuck, he can just whack it, and you're like,
Yeah.
how does a guy of that stature have the ability to hit the ball that hard? And
Well, I'd say again, which he's obviously pretty lucky that his father's one of the best coaches in New Zealand. So he's probably been taught from an early age how to ball strike and a technique. So for Leo, it's probably always just been relatively natural, striking a ball. But again, and then now I think with Bob being involved, and it's sort of filtered down, and like all the coaches have been relatively similar, that from around that time. So you've had, Fultz played under Bob, and they were extremely tight. Donkers was around there a lot with around those techniques. So these, you sort of keep those techniques going, and guys are getting better and better and learning how to hit.
Yeah. Do you have any desire to have any sort of future in cricket?
Not really, no. Like I said, as I had a long playing career, and my son's now playing, and so I help out coach his team. But I just, so for him to an early age, I'd say not coach his team, because I like him just to do his own thing, and so that's sort of my priority of, watching him. I get asked a wee bit now and again now, mainly by parents, do I want to coach the kids? And I just don't have enough time really, and so no is the short answer. But I still like helping out guys. I'd spent a lot of time with Jack Boyle and Harry Chamberlain. Both them are good cricketers. Harry, unfortunately, just hasn't got a break. And Jack, I just hope that someone like Jackie can, make the most of his talent in the next year or so, because he could be a really good batter, and is a good batter, but just hasn't quite ticked the boxes at the moment and got enough runs at the right time. But he's a really good cricketer. So yes, I did enjoy doing that. But yeah, sort of, we'll just see in the future.
Yeah. So outside of cricket, what else? So obviously work, and what else do you fill your time with?
Well, mainly a weekend was obviously work, and then young fellas cricket on a Saturday, and then I do my own T20 stuff on a Saturday, and then mainly just with my partner and her kids and my kids. So we're pretty full on really. So there's not actually a lot of time for much else.
Yeah.
I'm into my I like my league and my rugby and stuff. So again, I like supporting that. I hope the Warriors can have a big season. So I've got into, I managed to get up there last year, which was a good old session. We managed to get to the sheds after the game.
Oh, sure.
So that was good. One of our mates who played for the Kiwis, he managed to squeeze us in. We always thought he was full of shit. But actually the assistant coach turned up and had a few beers with us. Richard Ager, before what game was it? Anyway, it was he come to the pub before us. Obviously he wasn't drinking. We were having a few quiets, and Nico managed to squeeze us into the sheds after the game, and then he came out with us after it. So that was pretty cool. If Nico had been a bit more organised, we would have literally got to sing the song in the sheds a bit earlier too. So we're pretty pretty pissed about that. But he definitely Yeah, he enjoys a drop, but he didn't drink for like 4 hours. He just wanted to be straight as an arrow.
Yeah, I need to get into league. Like honestly, at cricket, everyone just talks league. I'm like, fuck, I need to start watching league.
Yeah.
Something I watched growing up and then just stopped when I went to uni and need to get back in.
Yeah, I just think now they've got a bit of a following, and people are heavily, like invested and they want them to do well. So, I enjoy it. I think it's a good TV sport. I managed actually last 2 or 3 years I've managed to play. Actually, I played Masters with Peter Ford and me on every month. We'd go and play Masters League. Like two nude nuts running around. It was good fun though. So and that sort of just kept enough. There was enough contact to keep you entertained.
Yeah, I always wanted to play league. I've never actually. It was always rugby, but I just like the idea of just crashing the ball up.
Yeah, I know about crashing it up, but there's a few high shots flying in there. But it's a good sport. I think we sort of I always find it funny how league and rugby in New Zealand they're not really fighting each other. It's like most rugby players love league and watch it all the time, so there shouldn't really be that division really.
No, but I think league's probably just becoming more popular because people are tired of the Super Rugby.
It's sort of a bit of a it's a competition that's sort of just in the middle of something that wants to get a wee bit better and probably branch out, but it's sort of just stuck in a holding place at the moment.
Yeah.
On an entertainment factor, but I think this year will be a good rugby because all the good players have gone away, and we see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. Did you play other sports growing up?
Yeah, I played quite a bit of rugby. I played like South Island secondary schools and under 18s.
What position?
10, 12 fullback. I set my Southern Regions team, which had like James Ryan, Brendan McCullum, Dan Carter. Who else was in that team? But so we went up north and played in that, so that was good. And then I got asked to go to the rugby academy, and my mum didn't even tell me, but she just said nah. So that's because I'd already decided to go to the cricket academy.
Right.
So that was around 18, 19. My brother managed to. He played 4 games for the Hurricanes and a couple for the Highlanders, and then forged out a career in France. So he was pretty lucky on that sense, and travelled the world and made some pretty good dollars. And so
was it always cricket for you, or there was a?
I think around there 18 or 19, I probably could have gone both ways, like not swung both ways, but I could have gone either one. I don't know. I think cricket, because I always felt that I could maybe go slightly further, but I think it was just more that I got a break to go to the academy first. But who knows?
So is that where your rugby career stopped?
Yeah. I managed when I retired it for Canterbury. A few weeks later, I ended up playing out at Kaipui Seniors for a few seasons, which was cool just to feel some adrenaline, like different adrenaline, like it's just that contact like you'd missed for so many years. You grow up as a young kid, and again, you, like I said, as you play cricket and rugby in the winter and in the summer, but you sort of miss all those feelings. It was quite cool just to get back into that, share different experiences. They'd played pretty hard and partied even harder off the field. So that was pretty loose, but that was just good fun. That's just real grassroots sort of stuff that guys just give up their time just to to give back to the club and play for a club that they like, and that's where I think with clubs, if we can keep that going with club sports, cricket, rugby, all that. Rather, it's not all about going to the top as much as people think it is, and that's the be all and end all, because it's actually the journeyman that you need to stay in the clubs to keep them going. And don't be prepared. You know, people that have gone on to achieve something with their career, maybe just give back something, and when you get back, because that might just keep the club afloat for another couple of years, couple more players, and it's sort of like a cycle, rather than just giving up straight away and giving nothing back.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to be the kind of guy who's just punishing myself playing as long as I can and just pushing through away. But yeah, I can't see myself not playing.
Yeah, I think where cricket is an interesting game because it's so long. So when you actually give up and you're not playing all the time, and you actually work out that it's pretty cool in the summer and to go to the beach or just go do something different. I found that was like when I always go on a Christmas holiday, because for 20 odd years never had a Christmas holiday, never did anything. So, you know, for the last, since I've stopped, I go Aussie, Thailand, wherever, because I just feel like I can, and it's cool just being away, doing something that when you couldn't do for so long.
Yeah, you wouldn't. What would you get, like 2 or 3 days over Christmas?
Well, you'd some days you'd play on even Christmas Eve or 23rd, and then you'd travel back, and then you'd be leaving Boxing Day, and like far out. Don't get me wrong, we still had some pretty cool times. You know, I remember going up to Taupo, and we had it was just, Taupo over the Christmas break was just crazy. So we had a pretty good night out. We managed to stay in this nice resort, and so it was a great time and a crazy night. But you just like that freedom, what you can do, whatever you want.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Do you have, with these over 40s and over 50s World Cups that have sort of started up, any...
Oh, I don't think so. I think they're training too much for me.
Oh, are they? Yeah.
Yeah, I think they... I can't really see myself training. So, and I think, didn't they get to the final in one of them? So, no, I don't see myself. I'll let those guys that are prepared to put in the hard yards do that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's more funding behind it in the future. There'll probably be some pretty strong teams in the future, I'd imagine.
Yeah, maybe. It's just I think sometimes with cricketers, when they're done, they're done.
Yeah.
So as much as I think the venues would be the key. So if that would have been pretty cool to go to South Africa. I think Aussie would be pretty cool. But you're probably not queuing up to go like Pakistan and places like that, are you? So, I think that's probably the venue will be the key for people to get heavily involved.
Yeah. Sweet. Any other stories you want to share?
No, I think it's been...
No, we've been going over an hour, so...
Oh, no, cool.
Yeah, it's been bloody good.
No, awesome. Cheers for that.
No, thanks for coming on.
No, all good.
Great stories.
Hopefully you got a few good stories anyway.
No, that's awesome.